Do you want to animate your silly little doodles and make those cool snares in your head that must be shared with the world? Well, me too. That's why I learned to animate. Why I'm gonna give you a rundown of how I animate. Well, kind of. There's two parts of this video. One is how you're supposed to animate, aka how I animated originally, and the other part is how I animate to keep up with the fast-moving, never-stopping pace of YouTube/TikTok trends. Anyways, this is my first video of me speaking, and it's supposed to be my 150 sub special. But if this does well, I'll definitely keep making these types of videos, which is why you should subscribe. Also, this is how I learned to animate personally, so if there's anything you'd like to add or correct, feel free to leave a comment as long as you don't go spewing hate everywhere. Alrighty, on to the first part, frame by frame animation. Well, for starters, you gotta pick your animation app, which there are plenty of free ones like Ibis Paint X, which isn't originally an animation app but can be used, and other apps like Flip a Clip and Procreate. I used to use Ibis Paint before my Chromebook crashed out and I had to swap to Procreate, which I definitely recommend, and it cost $10 once, no more times after that. But anyways, for frame by frame animation, you obviously use frames. A frame is like one picture of the many pictures it takes to get a character to appear as moving. You can also pick before animating how many frames are in a second. So the more FPS, the more fluid it is. I personally have 12 frames per second, but most people have 24 as that's the standard. Also, with frames, you can prolong the frames so they replicate fast or long movements. For example, all my in-between frames take about 1 or 2 frames, while my main positions can hold up to like 5 frames, usually. I like to start with my two endpoints, which are essentially the pose we start with and the pose we end with. Like this. These poses can be anything you want them to be, really. Like, it can be putting up a pre-sign, like what my video is, or it can be something more difficult. But the thing about difficult is that when you have to add more frames, that are in between, so it's like more fluid. Then after you make your main 2 frames, you've got to make the in-between frames, as prior mentioned, for the animation. I'm only making 1, but like other animations I have, there's like multiple. And in-between frames are exactly what they sound like. And to place them, you basically have to take the 2 frames you've already did and imagine the movement that's required to get to those 2 points. Drawing multiple in-between frames does make everything smoother, but it's up to you to choose how smooth you want it. Technically, you don't need any between frames at all. This is just how I do it. Now you gotta keep in mind that things like the hair, how it bounces up, or the clothing, while doing things IRL, like, bouncing up. You have to keep what it's doing so you can animate that to make it slightly more realistic to actual movement. But once you've got the main sketches of it, for me, the rest of it's really just lining and coloring, which is nothing different than normal drawing. I use this way for animating actions that won't be repeated. It's like turning your head as an example, because you can't just move your head from left to right and keep it the same. It's got to be turned. For repeated actions, like what I do for animations, I have another way of animating. Part 2, tweening. Tweening is supposedly easier and definitely quicker than frame by frame, although I suck at using an actual tweening app, so I use the same animation app as in the first method, but I'll explain how to use something which you can actually tween with. First, you have to get a drawing app, could be any as long as you can export different layers. Then you draw your character or whatever, but with each body part you want to move, you need a separate layer for that, and you should draw in some of the areas that would be covered by another body part while doing this. So like the entirety of a character's head, even though some of it's covered by hair. Then you export all your body parts into the tweening app. I'm pulling up a light motion, but CapCut works too. This is the part I struggle in, but you gotta put all the points where the joints would connect, then put them in parent helper, then look for rotate, then lock. Finally, you gotta mess around with the rotation system, which is the thing with the waves, and that's all I can help you with from there. If you really need an in-depth of this way of animating, I'd recommend these people that are down below. I think probably gonna put it in the description. Now we can move on to how I do it, because again, I suck at using those actual animating apps, tweening apps. So in Procreate, same one I used for frame by frame, you do the same thing in which first part where you separate all the different layers, but instead of you copy pasting a bunch of that into the other app, what you do is you use the lasso tool and move each individual body part throughout the many frames to make it look like smoothly connected. This way takes to be far faster than actual frame by frame animation. The only thing is you can't actually change your angle, just where the placement of your body is, which is why this works a lot for like gotcha tubers, since they normally never change perspective anyways in the app aside from like flipping the character. And I think that's it for tweening. Anyways, those are the two main ways people animate on YouTube. Although there are a few more stranger ways of animating, but I have no clue how to use them, and you don't have to use them ever if you want to animate for fun. Thank you for watching my video. I still can't fully comprehend ever getting more than 100 subs, never mind 150, and in the time it took to get there. Also, even though this specifically was a tutorial, most of these kind of videos are going to be just art related in general, not really something specific. If you like to like and subscribe. By the way, I'm always free to hear suggestions for video topics. So if you have any, feel free to comment. Love ya. Bye!